How are you, everybody? How's everybody doing? Okay, we are going to now finish how to understand the Gemini woman, part two. Now, I had mentioned, just to give you a little recap, you have mutable air, you have fixed air, which is Aquarius, and then you have cardinal air. Now, cardinal air is active air, full of ideas. We went through that when we talked about how to understand the Gemini woman, part one. And part two, we're going to go a little bit more in detail to the Gemini woman's paradoxical behavior. Because you have to really look at it like this, understand you're never going to know a Gemini woman. You're never going to know her. That's number one. Number two, if you think that you are figuring her out, you're going to find out very quickly and quite traumatically that you didn't know her at all to begin with. And the more she may appear and seem interested, really she's not. She really is a Jekyll and Hyde. And not just in attitude and mentality, but also in her behavior. She might say one thing but do another. She might talk both sides out of her mouth, truly mean what she says, and truly take both perspectives into account. There's never a right or a wrong answer with this woman. Okay, now going a little bit more personal about her. She's not the most passionate woman on the planet. You could say anything you want about Miss Gemini, but when it comes to intimacy, sex, and getting down to the nitty-gritty, she's really not as luscious as you might think she is. And don't get me wrong, because she is quite deceptive. Her beauty, her allure makes you promise all kinds of things in your mind concerning this woman. But if push comes to shove, does she really feel that way when it comes to sex, when it comes to intimacy? Does she really fit the fantasy that you may have on your mind concerning this woman? The answer will be an emphatic no. That might be your fantasies projected onto her. I mean, let's look at Angelina Jolie, for example. This woman is like a goddess. I mean, she's beautiful to the point where it's almost uncannily attractive, beautiful. Or someone that looks like Jennifer Aniston, who's not a Gemini, but can clearly look like one. Just a very attractive woman. Imagine you picture her in your mind being in a certain way sexually. Wow, like you really hit the jackpot. If I have this woman like that, I'd be the happiest man on the planet with a woman like that in my bedroom. Well, you might be sadly disappointed. Because it's not that she's not passionate, and it's not that she's not able to deliver the promise in the bedroom. It's just that she is not as passionate and as nitty-gritty and as earthy when it comes to sex as she might project onto you that she is. And that, you have to let that sink in. Because she may seem like a vixen, like Miss Pisces. Well, you're already whetting your appetite just at the prospect of sex with this woman, because you know it's going to be the bomb. It might not be that way with a Gemini woman. You might be disappointed. Again, her concept of sexuality is light and brief. And if it's not light and brief, it has to be in accordance to her mind that sex is going to be or will be with you the way she imagines it to be. If it falls short of her imagination of what she will feel and think it will be or should be with you, sex with her in the bedroom, And if it doesn't turn out to be the way that she imagines it in her mind for you to be with her in the bedroom, then she will be completely turned off. And it doesn't have to necessarily mean that you are not good in the bedroom. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the projected fantasy and the projected expectation that she has in her mind of what it would be like to have sex with you. So it both works ways. She might not be down for the nitty gritty. And if she is, she may not be down for the long haul either. It cannot be all emotional and mushy and she can be that way, but she will expect you to react in response to her sexuality. Not in that way. You're going to have to learn to be just as impartial as she is emotional. If you're emotional, she will back away. If you're distant, then she will become emotional. And her mood sexually will be based on a different barometer that you and I, even as men, would never be able to understand. Because anything can trigger this woman. Anything. And it has to be impulsive, rhythmic, and even electromagnetic. Okay? Now, just because she's not the most passionate woman on the planet doesn't mean that she can't hang like the rest of them. Let me tell you. Her sexuality is quite complex and quite deceptive. Deceptive and deceptively complex. Two things. It is deceptive and it is deceptively complex. Okay? Now, let me explain what I mean by that. Number one, deceptive to others. And this is exactly what I was just describing and talking about. The way she appears, the perception that she wants to give onto you when it comes to her promise sexually, it's not what it turns out to be. Okay? Now, when I'm talking about deceptively complex, I'm talking about not about the person. I'm talking about herself. She may not understand her own sexuality, her own sexual responses to her, equally to her partners, is just as complex and difficult to understand. She can deflate the biggest, strongest boner, or she can wake up the most impotent man. Okay? It's almost crazy. She has that power to do that. Now, deceptive to others, there's a couple of ways that she can be deceptive sexually to others. And I want to mention 4 ways that she can be deceptive sexually to others, meaning the others get the wrong idea about her. Okay? She will tease, touch, tantalize, and flirt with you. But she's not going to be interested in sleeping with you. Just because she does that doesn't mean that she's going to sleep with you. Number 1. Number 2, she will act like a companion. Seem to behave like a girlfriend or even a wife, but only it will be your perception of it. It will not be, however, her intent to come across in this way. And even if she does, she will deny it. So she's the type of woman that will keep you hanging. That's number 2. Number 3, she will see or witness you fall in love with her, let you, and then refuse you and turn you down. And it may seem cruel, but she'll be like, well, I didn't do that. Well, it's not my fault that you fell in love with me. I don't feel the same way about you. She can play a fucking head game on your ass and on your heart if you're not careful. Then there's the number 4, which is she's a toiler, a fondler, quite dismissive of your feelings, or at least make light of them. So she's not the type of woman that you're going to boo-hoo-hoo to, or cry because you got hurt, or because you have a cold and you're sick and you need a woman to take care of you. She's not going to be that type of person to lend an emotional, kind of like a mother hen type of affection, and she can have affection, She can be affectionate, but mentally, mentally, there won't be no emotional exposition on her part to be endearing to you emotionally. That usually comes with great difficulty and at a price. But then again, this is where her paradoxical behavior comes into play, because she might talk a good game and act a good game, like she does care, like she is endearing, but at the same time, really not give a shit. But then when she's most distant and ignoring your ass and being difficult, that's when she's showing most love for you. You don't know which way it goes because she keeps it guessing like that. But it also has a lot to do that she really doesn't understand her own responses because she thinks so quick. And there's no forethought and certainly no afterthought when it comes to her actions. Her feelings, she denies them. It only if they well up to the surface to the point where she can't control them, then she'll yield. Then there's the deceptively complex to herself. Okay, now we can discuss a couple instances. We can do about 5, 6 instances. Actually, 7, 8, 9. I got 9 instances in which she is deceptively complex to herself. Number one, she loves the idea of sex, but refuses to get down and dirty, at least initially. She's sensual in her taste in men. A, they have to be physically in great shape. B, they have to have money or at least have some kind of resourcefulness to obtain money. C, communication and acts of affection are important to her. Even though she might not give that to you in kind, she expects that out of you. And then we got, well, for being a Gemini, the sign of communication, let me tell you, the one true act of communication that can make her the most happiest woman on earth, she refuses to talk about. Okay? And that's her private, intimate, and love life. If she was more open about her needs emotionally, her needs sexually, and her needs concerning intimacy, I think her men will better understand her and meet her halfway. But that's the problem with Miss Gemini. She doesn't want to even articulate her own emotional needs or even that they're there. She gives off an aura of being completely logical, intellectual, and empathic, but only when it comes to her own emotional needs, not anybody else's, including that of her own children. And people might think that that's kind of like rough. No, and it's not that she's a cold-hearted bitch who can't think or don't want to invest in other people's emotions and feelings. It's that her mind is moving too fast for her to even reflect. The problem with the Gemini woman is that she doesn't reflect. The mind is constantly moving forward, forward, forward. And, she won't even tolerate you if you're not thinking at the proper speed that she's thinking. You can't keep up with her up here mentally. She's already dismissing you. And God forbid you don't talk intellectually or you use double negatives in your language and parts of speech. That would just, she would put a stamp of judgment against you and will want nothing to do with you. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. She's highly emotional. She's a highly emotional woman, but extremely contradictory and paradoxical. She will loan you her body, but never surrender her heart. Now, that phrase there packs a punch. She will surrender her body, but she will never surrender. No, she will loan you her body, but she will never surrender her heart. Like Miss Cancer, which is a sign that follows Gemini. There's a lot of emotional reserve and emotional uncertainty. Sometimes she doesn't know which way to go, trust her emotions or trust her intellect. And she can never really do a combination of both, because that's when she really becomes most confused. Most confused. Now, then of course, we have she will spell out to you her emotional needs and will expect you to figure it out for her. That's the other thing. And even then, she won't meet you halfway. She respects only her way of thinking, no one else's, including yours. She doesn't care who you are. In order to understand her, you must wear the hat of an amateur psychotherapist and try to approach her holistically. She runs away from herself a lot. And this is the problem. So you spending a lot of psychological time in the relationship with her, chasing her down mentally, psychologically, and trying to figure her out. But she mentally is always on the go, on the move, and she's never still. Her worst fear is to be alone. She can't stand to be alone. The Gemini men as well. Emotional growth and maturity usually occurs as she gets older. You know, and and yes, as she gets older, she becomes more mature. But also when there's a lot of emotional loss or a lot of pain, she also grows out of that. She has to go through some intense pain in order to feel. And that then becomes the bedrock or the stepping stone for her to become a better person and more three-dimensional person with empathy, emotion, and feeling. You know, age and experience are the other parameters that will make her grow up and make her more balanced psychologically, physically, and emotionally. It takes her time, but she becomes a beautiful gem. But again, usually when she's much older. There is no taming of the real nature of Gemini. But to win this woman's heart, you totally have to be invested in investing in her mind.